everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Sonia. So I wanted to talk about what traditional witchcraft actually is today, and then I'm going to also be talking about how I can reclaim it. And you will hear paper because I have notes. But while I'm doing that, I've had a hard weekend, people. I'm just going to tell you. I think it was Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I had my granddaughter here. And Friday, apparently, you know how you're like, oh, we have to wash your face. Oh, we have to change your pull-up. You know, that kind of thing goes on. And then they get this, you know, toddlers get in this game where I'm going to run and hide. Okay, so she does that. And so I pretend like I'm stomping around like she does when she runs and hides, you know, I'm gonna find you, that kind of thing. That is the only thing I can think of that would have hurt my foot, even though I didn't feel me hurting my foot at the time, which is the crazy part, because that afternoon it started feeling like my toes, like my second and third toe, were like cramping. You know how they cramp up? But as the evening wore on, it got worse and worse. My foot swelled up. I was getting pounding pain in it. And that night, sleeping was horrible. It was horrible. Okay. When I got up, finally got, bits and pieces of sleep, I got up and I had to take some very strong ibuprofen to help me. And now it's at the point where there's not really any pain. It's just kind of stiffness because it's a little bit swollen. And then yesterday, you know, I had to go to the grocery store because there's no one else to do that. So I have to go and do it. And walking was horrible. It was horrible, especially when there's so many people and they don't want to get out of the way. You know how the grocery store stuff goes. I do not do ordering in and that kind of stuff. I live on a dead-end dirt road in the middle of, I don't even know, a small town. Okay, that don't work here for me, and I wouldn't do it anyway. I go get my own food. So, yeah. I'm not feeling like I even want to brush my hair right now. Today, I'm relaxing, but I'm going to do this video. And while I'm doing it, I'm just going to thumb through this Gaian tarot because instead of trying to brush my hair or even wash my face today, I don't want to do any of that. So we're just going to look at some cards and you can hear me, you know, blather on. How we do that. This is one of my older decks. It's not the oldest deck I have, but this is one of my older ones. I think it's 2011. I'm not sure. But I actually got this from an antique store from the husband of, it was a husband and wife that owned the antique store, and she had died. And so he was selling some things off, and I knew she had these tarot cards in there. And so he gave me a deal on like 5 or so of them. I literally only paid $15 for all of them. So this is the box. It's one of those old-fashioned, very big boxes, although you can still get ones like this. But it's the Gaian Tarot. Joanna Powell Colbert. It's hard to get this in framing. But there's that, and this is the book. It's one of those bigger books. So we're just going to look at this as I talk. Okay, that's what we'll do. So what traditional witchcraft is, in just some plain terms. Okay, and these are not in order. Don't expect that, please. So I wanted to backtrack a little and explain traditional witchcraft with the backbone and the clarity. And zero love and light dilution. I want to talk about it the way practitioners actually live it. or lived it. And to start, of course, this is not Wicca. Not talking about Wicca. Although there is, a traditional Wiccan path. This is not that. This is not a modern neo-pagan invention. And it's not built around universal love, karma, or a threefold law. It's a collection of old world. There's going to be a glare because there's a window behind me. Real life. Old world, land-rooted, spirit-driven practices that existed long before the 20th century revival movements. Although some people would say that this is a revival movement. Maybe it is in kind of way. It's a craft, and it's not a religion. Wicca is a religion. Paganism is a religion. Witchcraft is something you do. It's what you practice. It's a relationship with the unseen, with no kind of codified doctrine. I'll try to move these around so that the glare, it seems to work just like that, okay? So, in a nutshell, it's about speaking with the land and its spirits, the genus loci, ancestors, familiar spirits, and the powers that inhabit the natural world. It's a practical magic. Charms, cunning work, folk rites, healing, cursing, blessing, divination, and spirit contact. I especially like that card. It's reciprocity. It's a give and take. It's offerings and obligations, pacts and partnerships. Some people don't seem to like that oath thing or the pacts, or the obligations. I think that takes a little insight to looking into why. Liminality. That's the crossroads, the thresholds, the boundaries, the hedge crossing, the trance, and the in-between spaces where power moves. This is one of the things I was talking about where you have New Age in some cards. And like Gaian, that's like an earth thing. So we kind of got those tied up together. So it's a personal gnosis and a craft lineage. There's no hierarchy, there's no dogma, and there's no rules for everyone. It's a very crooked path, and there's no straight lines. Tradcraft, I'm simply saying that to make it shorter to say, draws from a web of sources, none of which were ever meant to be systemized. So the folk magic and the cunning craft, that's the cunning folk. The charmers, the pellers, that word is derived from expeller, which is a Cornish term for a healer. They expel the, disease or the pain or whatever. Peller. The village healers, the hedge riders, the toad doctors, wise women and men. These practitioners, they weren't witches in the modern sense. They were the service workers, the mediators between the community and the spirit world. Yes, this has some New Age in it, but it also has a strong message, justice. Because if you notice everything behind him, yeah. Then you have the pre-Christian animistic worldviews. This is not Celtic Reconstructionism, not romanticized paganism, like we see a lot of nowadays. It's just paganism that is romanticized. But the older animistic understanding that the land is alive, spirits inhabit everything, and magic is a natural force. The dead are always present, and power is relational. This worldview survived in fragments through folklore, charms, superstitions, and oral tradition. Then we have the witch lore and the mythic archetypes. Now, Tradcraft embraces the mythic witch. The night-flying, spirit-working, familiar, keeping figure from the European witch trial records, from fairy lore, from folk tales, and from demonological texts. Tradition simply means that we seek out the historical sources and apply those to our craft. It doesn't mean we think our craft is the oldest by saying traditional. It means we seek out the oldest that we can find, constantly researching. I discovered Tradcraft when I was reading a blog by a woman named Sarah Ann Lawless. I'm sure a lot of us know her. She had a blog. I believe it's been archived by now, if even that, even if you could find every entry that she wrote. She would give you just enough information to want to know more. And so I researched a lot from that in the beginning, because I was like, what is traditional witchcraft? And when she would do an entry, I would, I need to know more about that. And so this is where this all stems from, actually. Then you have the lineages and the modern revivals. Now, some traditions have lineages. The Combs, the clan of Tubal Cain, 1734, Anderson Ferry, while others were solitary or family taught. So what truly sets Tradcraft apart? I'm going to be a little blunt here. There's no moral purity. We don't have a reed or a law. Our actions can have consequences, yes, but consequences are natural, aren't they? I, for one, make sure that I understand what the consequences might be before I do something. There's no worship. I don't kneel. Now, I have to sit on the floor sometimes. But that's for, a little one-on-one. I'm sitting on the floor. I work with spirits, ancestors, and powers as partners, allies, or patrons. And there's no kind of universal love. I acknowledge the shadow, death, the wild, the uncanny, the dangerous, the morally ambiguous. It's not clean, it's not safe, and it's not supposed to be. There's no doctrines or specific rules or ways of doing things. And I learn by doing, which is the experiencing of trance, hedge crossing, spirit flight, charm craft, divination, spell making, offerings, and yes, the dreaded oaths. Books can guide you, and they have. But your actual craft is what you're living, what you're experiencing and doing. Now, how can I reclaim traditional craft? Or how can anyone reclaim traditional witchcraft? So, as a modern day witch, I am a witch in the modern day. I can reclaim tradcraft, but it will require me to shift from the aesthetic identity-based commercialized model of modern practice that surrounds me as I perceive it, back into the relational, land-rooted, spirit-driven, liminal model that I feel define the old craft as a whole. When I say that, I'm talking about the conditions that made it powerful to the witches that practice it. It's not about copying the past, because I can't do that, especially as I live here in Florida, okay? But by restoring the relationships, the risk, and the responsibilities that shaped it. Rebuilding the witch's relationship with the land is the foundation of the tradcraft. How does one do that that's interested in this path? What can you do to see if this could be the path for you? It's really simple at first. Choose a place. That could be a tree, that could be a crossroads, that could be a creek, it could be a hill. And visit it regularly. Just go there, sit there, talk to your surroundings, listen to your surroundings, learn your local plants, your animals, your weather, and your spirits. Make some simple offerings. Water is the simplest one. Bread, milk, tobacco. That's depending on the, lineage to some. Track the seasons with your senses and not a calendar. Treat the land as a partner and not a backdrop. Trad witches didn't work with the nature energy, with the energy of nature. They worked with the land, the specific, the local, living land. Then restoring the role of the ancestors, the dead. You can, if you don't have one, you can set up a simple altar space. You only need a candle, some water, and a place to speak. The consistency in offerings is more important than the beauty of the altar. Learn to sense presence through the subtle shifts. You can ask for guidance, protection, and introductions to other spirits. The ancestors are the safest and most stabilizing entry part into spirit work. Trad witches work with spirits and not their vibes, not just energy work. You can begin with ancestors and then you can move to land spirits and household spirits. You can learn offerings and boundaries and discernment. You can develop trance skills and approach familiar spirits through long-term relationships, not just like an instant contact. Spirit work is the heart of tradcraft. Tradcraft is hyper-local, but you can research the folk magic of your ancestry, whether you're British, Slavic, Mediterranean, Appalachian, whatever it is. And then study the folk magic of the region that you live in now. You can use local herbs, local materials, local spirits. You can learn old charms, protections, and household rites. You're not trying to revive generic witchcraft. You're reviving your craft. Tradcraft wasn't clean. There are some hard parts. Hard parts that people, baneful magic, protection, curse breaking, justice magic, death magic, liminal work. You can learn some historical protection and counter curses. Study baneful magic, but don't feel like you have to rush in to use any of it. That's not what it was for. Understand the ethics of necessity. Necessity versus harm. Work with graveyards. Learn the symbolism of bones, iron, knots, and blood. As a trad witch, I deal with the full spectrum of life, not just the comforting parts. There are 3 trance modes, and I have found them called different names, but I have named them as they are described. Frenzy, which is the ecstatic body-driven trance. That is dancing, chanting, drumming, shaking even. Then there's stillness, death-like liminal trance. Darkness, sensory deprivation, breath slowing. Then there's focus. This is a razor-sharp concentration. Candle gazing, scrying, repetitive charms. I don't meditate to relax. Meditation is trance. That's done to cross worlds. The social role of the trad witch was liminal. They were outsiders. They were mediators, healers, charmers. They were feared, but actually also respected. You can stop treating witchcraft as an aesthetic. It is a function. It's not an identity. Maybe develop skills that serve your community. Divination, healing, protection. Embrace the liminal role without romanticizing it. You're defined by what you do, not what you call yourself. Use what you have for tools and materials. Build a toolkit from natural or found materials. Use iron, thread, wax, clay, ash, dirt. Let your tools be simple, ugly, and handmade, and don't worry about it. Try to avoid commercial witch kits. Your authenticity comes from your relationship to what you do, not retail. Tradcraft is transactional. Reciprocity, oaths, and pacts. Offer before you ask, and then keep your promises. Treat spirits as partners. Build the long-term relationships, not just a one-and-done ritual. Responsibility is the backbone, because you're not entitled to anything. Understand the witch father, or the man in black archetype. This is the figure of the initiator, the witch's patron, the keeper of the forbidden knowledge, the spirit of the wild. You don't have to worship the devil. You're reclaiming the role that he represents. This figure embodies the witch's liminality, the witch's rebellion, the witch's power. So until next video, I'll see you there.